Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so it's unmuted and all that jazz? Okay, people on TV are probably, or on Facebook. All right, so we'll get started. We'll call this joint meeting to order, and we'll start off with Pledge Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll kick it off. I know we met, 6 weeks ago, kind of started off and kind of led to us to do the survey. We're going to talk about the results today and where we go from there. So I think that was good. I think as we talked about moving forward, we keep it a nice, open, collaborative meeting. If there's any concerns or anything that folks don't feel comfortable sharing, I think sharing with Dawn and myself, we'll be happy to take those forward to our respective sides and whatnot if there's discussion and whatnot. But I think some good stuff has come out of that. I think people have taken the one strong community that the town initially kind of kicked out there, and the chamber's using that. I think the schools use that at times. So I think that's good progress, and that gives us a kind of a nice, kind of trampoline, if you will, to kind of leap off of and move forward. So,
I agree, and thank you guys for hosting it again. We promise to have you over to our house soon.
Okay.
And we're just looking forward, and we're thankful for, being here again, and that we get this opportunity to meet with you guys and try and make the community stronger and better by working together.
A little bit of technical issues here for a moment.
Today is great. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to kick it off.
I think when we were here for the first meeting, we just brainstormed ourselves collectively and came up with things that we felt as boards that we do good, some things that we felt we could possibly do better, and then some things that we thought needed more attention than the others. And then the survey was to poll the public and see if the public felt and if their ideas and thoughts aligned with what we all shared together in that meeting. And I don't really think personally that there were a lot of surprises in the survey. I don't know how you guys felt, but I think it aligned with kind of what we were all thinking in the first meeting. So I'll hand it over to you since.
Well, no, Amanda had talked about, I don't know if you want to talk about what.
Yeah, so I have just kind of outlined, I completely agree with you. When the results came out, I thought, hey, maybe we kind of know what we're talking about.
Got our finger on the pulse.
Okay, this is good. This is good progress. And so what I did was I took everything that was kind of rated below 2.5, which 2.5 was average. So this is everything that the public from this survey believes that we do below average. I've kind of put on there, the lowest one there was excels in trying to eliminate traffic. Some of the other lower ones in the ones kind of going down, I should have put them in order, but that would have been way too easy. Excels in events and conferences was low. Excels in entertainment activities for adults. Excels in the arts and culture. Excels in transportation. Then the eliminate traffic one again. Excels in having a town center. And then excels in providing shared office space. And one thing with this, where it just said, put any comment that you'd like. One thing that we kind of noticed was the whole town center thing, which again, I don't think that's a surprise to any of us. I think that was something we had discussed last time. So it just kind of seems like a theme. And then I kind of put over here on the right in green, these are the words that were coming up the most frequently when people were asked, put down 3 words that make you think about Avon and our community. And these are the words. So I'm wondering, after we've had some discussion, if we maybe even want to take like a 5-minute and everybody just kind of go up and we each tally our 3 favorite without kind of bias from what other people think. And before we have conversation, just to kind of narrow that down even further. So I'm not sure where we want to go from here. I don't know if it's let's take those things that are on the bottom. We had discussed at our last board meeting, and I told them as I was saying this, I was like, I'm making this up as I go along, because that's kind of what this is, right? We're treading new territory here and kind of going through this together and figuring out what we want to do and how we can work better together. So is it coming up with a list of top 5? You know, these are the top 5 things we think that we really need to hone in on. And that doesn't have to be the bottom 5, right? If there's some of those that we think we could combine together into one, if there's something that's a little higher and we all are like, we really want to focus on that, let's put that in our list of top 5. And then where do we go from there? Do we split up into smaller groups leaving this meeting? Each smaller group kind of focuses on their one area. I'm completely open to discussion, whatever you guys want to do. What are your thoughts?
I think you can start with a few of these that we're kind of addressing right now but are pending. And that would be traffic, transportation, and shared office space. Last Thursday, we just passed a development that was going to go in on 1050 East for the shared office space.
Oh, nice.
That looks like it's going to be a very nice facility. So I would say, just my interpretation would be we could put pending by those 3.
Okay.
If we're starting at the bottom and moving up, and then that leaves us 4 out of the 7 from the very bottom.
Yeah, I'm kind of all for going at the hard ones. Traffic's a hard one naturally, and it's good to speak to it because it's a hot button. You know, people do focus on the negative, and so I don't want to dance around that. I think it's good, and I don't like to dance around and say, "Hey, NDOT controls the signals." You know, yeah, they do, but they've been very responsive and listening to us. That's been good. We do have the improvements going on in the area. As far as they've had the bridge project that's coming up that's now just about done, and then the widening, from Shiloh to Raceway, right around that area. That's been a heartache for everyone. I mentioned at our meeting that the plan now is to get get those road plates out and make it smoother going into winter. But I realize that's a pain in the rear for everyone. It's tough, but we need to get through it. We need to do it. I've had people ask me, why do we have County Road 100 South between Dan Jones and Ronald Reagan going at the same time as US 36? And I don't like to joke with them and say, well, we just thought it'd be fun. No, that's what happened is it turned out that the utilities were, as they always are everywhere, they were a problem 100 South. We had that issue going on where it was a problem. And so it had a little delayed start on that, which caused a problem there. And county wanted to do the work on the bridge, coming over too, and they couldn't do that. So you have to decide which projects do you put off, or do you plow ahead and do your best to try to work with it and do the maintenance of traffic. So it's a right thing to take some hits on it because it has been a problem for our public, and I admit that.
It was important too to go on with 100 South, even though we knew that Rockville Road would be happening, because we had the opportunity for some economic growth along 100 South with the Mormon land there, and I think everyone's going to be really surprised when they are able to open up that road. And we've got an 880,000 square foot warehouse that's well underway. Already on the road before it even opened. So economically, it was a decision to move forward with it, even though it might cause a little bit of headache for a little bit of time.
We do have some, Ryan knows too, and Steve more than I know that we have some roundabout things coming up that are going to be some nice traffic calming. It's going to be enjoyable. I could see when it's done.
Yeah.
During the construction, yes, we watch the maintenance of traffic and try not to be too much of a problem for people and look for alternatives that are reasonable for them for traveling. That's important. It's important that they can get there and feel comfortable with it. But we've had, I don't know what the dollar amount is how many dollars we've been spending lately on the roadway. Ryan, do you happen to have that up here?
Well, over the last about 12 years, we've spent about almost 150 million between the county, the town, and NDOT on projects in Avon, basically. So Yeah, the traffic's always a tough one because you have to actually make it worse to make it better. And I know that's frustrating to people, but people kind of need to grit and bear it and help get through it if we can't make it better without having to close roads and improve them and make them better. So, it's just part of the process, and people can be patient with us. We're working through it. We're spending lots of money. We're addressing those needs as quickly and efficiently as we can.
And we'll continue to go after grants and anything that we can and partner with NDOT. They've been good to work with, on this. So continuing to be those partners. Now we have to, once those monies are out there, as you guys know, on the township level, you have to spend them, you have to move forward with it. So once we're committed to it, we have to make it work. And we have to do everything we can to make it not too punishing for the public, but we want to get it done. So that's probably in a nutshell, but I'm open for any questions, or if you need some depth on that or some highlights on that, that's fine. Just let me know what questions you might have on that.
Well, I was gonna say, for the purposes of what this group is, right, and this collaboration, I don't know that is something, traffic, that we can address together. I think that's kind of a town, right? You guys have it, you're doing your best, you're working. I mean, do you guys agree with that that's maybe not something that goes on our top 5?
The only thing I would add is that the idea behind collaboration, I agree, they're over it. But I think if we have the information, we can also help you communicate it to the public.
Absolutely.
I've found that within the collaboration group that we have that meets every other month, that does work a lot, because then we're sharing stuff and we're knowing what the other, what each of us are doing. And when it comes up in the public, we say, no, that's not right. This is what's really going on. So I found that very helpful. That's the only thing I would add, is that, would help if we know, so we can help you,
Right.
As far as communicating.
I just meant for the purposes
Yeah,
of breaking
yeah,
into
yeah,
a small group and addressing an issue. I don't think that's something that a small group is going to help in any
Well,
way.
the other thing too, that, to me, that's not a pending item, that's just gonna be an ongoing
Ongoing,
item
yeah.
forever.
That's right.
So I think as we address these, we should think of things that are gonna be more into perpetuity,
Right.
and things that we can certainly, are pending, may have an end date somewhere.
Right.
So, I mean, as we go through this, and I guess we need to understand, what are our objectives as we go through this? What's the end game? This will be our second meeting. As we do this, I look at this as not only NDOT, 3 governmental bodies: the county, the town, and the township. And then you throw in NDOT, so you have 4. And you have this 4-headed animal that there could be 4 different directions that we're all going in, and we're trying to make this, it's not gonna be perfect, but maybe streamline it, make it a little bit more functional. And so as you look at this and you look at these items here, like even we said the office space Aaron talked about, but even right above that is the incubator for the new businesses. Those kind of go together hand in hand. That's what developers are bringing to the table, and we've been fortunate to have that. So, that's what I see here is how do we make these things, like adult education, the town can't control, that's a school issue, that's a school order, that could be an Ivy Tech or a Trine University issue. It's not the town that can do that.
Well, I kind of agree with what Don said. It's more of an educational process, and I think we, took the time to do the survey, and anyone online right now watching us, it's good for them to hear that, that was one of the topics in the survey, and it was one of them that they felt we could do better, and so we're responding to that. We heard them, and we are working on it, and it's good for that feedback, at least, so that they know that we did notice, we did see it, we hear them, and we're working through it.
I'd like to mention that the school and the library were both invited to this meeting, but both of them have board meetings tonight, so that's why they're not here. So.
Okay. Is that a smoke alarm?
Those are crickets.
That's why I was like, why does it sound like crickets? Well, I mean, as I kind of go down this list, I hear what you're saying, Greg, that adult education is maybe the school, it's maybe Trine, it's maybe Ivy Tech. But could a group that consists of a member from the town, the township, the school, the library, different entities, could we be a stronger force to kind of go out and try to figure that out? What does that look like? Is it also working with senior services? Does that mean just adults as in 30, 40-year-olds? Or does it also mean, 60 plus? I'm not sure exactly what that means. I also look at like excelling at sports facilities. That's something that we've all known has been an issue for a very, very long time. Is that something that if we're all working together, can we try to figure out, are there solutions to this? What are the solutions? I think it's just about being community and collaborating and trying to find solutions to things that may not seem like there are a solution, but let's at least look at them from a couple different angles. I don't know. I mean, I see the road thing as in, no, you guys really have, there's nothing that we're gonna be able to say or do or help with, or the road issues are the road issues. Just like you said, it's gonna get worse before it gets
We have
better.
to respond to it though. It's a real thing. And it's-
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. But I don't see that a small group is going to do anything to make it better or worse or different. Does that make sense? Whereas adult education, maybe that is something that we could look at from a couple different angles and try to figure out what does that look like within our community and why does the public think it's so bad? And can we pull in, all kinds of different, can we pull in somebody from Ivy Tech and get their take on it? Can we pull in from somebody from Trine and get their take on it? A lot of the adult education left, right? Trine University closed, or made it Plainfield. That's right, yeah. So I'm just trying to think about some of these from a different lens and what would it look like if different entities were taking a different look at it and how could we help and try to address some of these items?
If I may, on adult education specifically, I wish Laura was here. We just gave $5,000 to the library specifically for a adult education program, and the name of the program escapes me. But that was its specific duty was to improve adult education through the library. Laura talked that program up just as an amazing opportunity. We were glad to be able to help there. I think that touches back on something Don mentioned, just doing a better job of speaking to some of these things. I don't think we've done a good job of championing that for the library, nor is the library doing a good job of spreading that advertisement. So I think there are some things that have been done that are under the radar, might not be done as well, but this might be just one of those opportunities to a small group to, hey, maybe it is just education for the public. Hey,
Right.
these,
Spreading the
there
word.
are opportunities here.
Well, then if we're going to look at the things that we feel like we could make a difference on or put in a breakout group, maybe that's the direction we should go for tonight's meeting. On our group, I don't know how much we want to say, but we will have on our agenda a development that will be coming before the town council, and there's a great opportunity, and we've had conversation about perhaps that being the answer to a town center, if you will. It'll be a place where the community can gather for different events and things like that. I don't know, Ryan, how much we really can say at this point.
Yeah, we can share some.
I mean, it's coming on the agenda, so.
Sure, yeah, it's coming up, and I think I've shared it with Don too, and hopefully Don has shared some of that with you guys, but we have been working with a development called Easton Gray. We're not really calling it a town center because it's not in the center of town, but it is the concept of a center or a place for people to gather that would be different than the rest of US 36. It would have commercial fronting a road. It may have some multifamily that has to be there to support it. It would be more mom and pop type stores and restaurants that people can walk to and sit down and eat. And there would also be a civic component that we've talked about being a bigger government center, maybe not a town hall, but there would be a government center that would be available to the township and the school and the library and the town and fire and police, and that we'd all be in a singular location kind of together. That's also in that area that's the town center. We're calling it a Riverwalk district at this point because it's right next to Whiteley Creek. But we've been working with the developer for about 12 months, and it's been a great back and forth. So they are starting to go through our planning process now. If that zoning gets approved, then the next step would be they have asked the town to provide some financing to support the project and to create some TIP districts and things like that, which again is always, and we've taken the position that creating TIF districts is really, it's all of us. Everybody's providing something, so the township's providing something and the library's providing something. And I think that's the concept of the government center too, that if everyone's providing something, that everybody can get back something out of it as well that is beneficial to all of us as government entities, but also to us as a community. I think the important part about it is there's really nowhere else that we've identified in town that we can accomplish a town center, which really makes this development really unique and special. Because if we lose this opportunity, there may not be another one for us to try to accomplish that goal. So this is gonna be something as it goes through that we're gonna, and I've shared this with Dawn, that we're gonna look for the support from the township and the school. And hopefully it can be viewed as something that's beneficial to the entire community. It's now maybe in the town of Avon, and it may go through the town of Avon's process, but it's still something that benefits all of us. And it's the only opportunity maybe to get something like this for our community. And we have heard that, and that's why we've really worked hard on this over the last few months. So we're excited about it. We think it's something good and unique for the community.
It'll have green space, so farmer's market, picture that, instead of being out on the asphalt pavement over in a parking lot, it'll be a place for vendors to come and, maybe 4th of July things, or you can shut down components of the retail district and things like that. So it'll have, well, like you've seen in Fishers and Carmel, you see the businesses on the lower level with some housing above it. And again, it's going to be more of the mom and pop things. So not the chain restaurants that we already have. It's going to be a unique product to the town. And it's as close as, like Ryan said, that I think that Avon will ever be able to get to calling a town center, because we have Rockville Road and it's already developed. So there's not another location to really put a town center per se.
There's a potential arts civic component of
Yes.
it that would make it very exciting.
Yes.
Something that we know, and we agonize over not having that. We really do. When you see us go through this budget process and we have to, in the past, we have to cut that out, that hurts each of us. And we say, we can't keep doing this. And so now this could make it right. So
So it addresses a few things.
Which I think, yeah, that was up there as well.
Yes.
The arts.
Well, just taking the Easton Gray as an example, you can plug in the town center, you can plug in arts and culture, you can plug in entertainment and adults, you can plug in events and conferences.
Yes.
So I mean, now you're starting to categorically put them in groups of, I won't say the other thing about one other thing we're trying to do, but then you get other things like, I think are for all items, transparency,
Yes.
providing education on public issues. That's not one specific thing. It's really a lot of things that we're just trying to convey a message to people. So I think as we start to go through these things, I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of categories like, agricultural needs. I'm not sure we have any agricultural needs. I mean, we're giving tax abatement, agricultural tax abatement where necessary to the existing farmers that are out there that want to be annexed into the town. But other than that, I mean, I look at that as farming the farmland and having implement dealerships and things like that. I don't think that's us.
Right.
Which I think, to what you just said, that's exactly what we want, is to get these down to
Manageable.
3 to 5. And and I think that's what we talked about. We can kind of lump some of them together. I think one that's not up there that we're obviously trying to address already is securing the borders.
Yes.
So I think that's something that we could I think this group would want to add that, because we have formed smaller groups. A smaller group is already existing to work on that, and that's something that's very important. So
We might need to clarify what that means for folks that are not here in this room.
Sure.
If We're not talking the edge of
Well, I
the
mean, I
United
just-
States.
I think that
Well,
would be good, though.
In Washington Township, we're looking at making sure that the corners of the Washington Township are brought in and secured. And we've had very positive responses from the farming community you mentioned. They like to come in to the town in general because they know they have a better product for their land and it's going to be better for that. So it's kind of exciting really on doing that. But we have to go, if it's a voluntary annexation, fine. No, we're not looking at takeover type things. So what we have to do is we have to just work with people and make that happen.
And collectively, there's Robert and I on the annexation committee, Ryan is on the annexation committee, Amanda, Don, and Engelhardt, and
Jeff Bradley.
and Jeff Bradley from the library board. And in fact, we meet tomorrow. But what we've talked about securing our borders, what we mean by that for the public is that to control the growth that affects our schools, Plainfield, I'm just gonna say it right, Plainfield has encroached within the borders of Washington Township. The county sometimes does as well, and they might start a housing subdivision that might have 300, 400 homes. And so it's affecting our schools, but yet we're not getting the tax dollars for that. And, our schools may or may not be ready for that additional influx of students at the time. And so by securing our borders and annexing in those perimeter properties, we are able then to have like a timeline or control better the development that exists within our boundaries.
What it does is it keeps Danville and Brownsburg out of Washington Township.
Yes,
It secures the border. So what we're talking about is strips. We're not talking about large developments. We're talking about the strips that lie along that, but that become contiguous and move across and move down. It also protects the fire territory because our fire territory tax, right now, if you were to look at the way our tax levies are laid out, we have a township tax levy, which is the entire township, and we have a fire territory levy, which is everything but the Plainfield portion, because Plainfield Fire provides fire protection for that area, even though we probably do more runs there than they do, only because of our closeness. But we don't get the tax dollars for that. And when we plan our operating budgets and we plan our fire bond for fire station bond, that's based on what we have right now. And when we lose that, then we lose those tax dollars. And so that's why it's important to the township that we help you secure that. The school and the library look at it from the standpoint, because if you look at the example that Plainfield did, when they did their TIF allocations, they did not include Avon schools or Avon Washington Township Library in that, even though they did give Plainfield schools and Plainfield library money. And I was told by one of the school board members that in that Plainfield section, there's 1,000 students of Avon schools. They're in
which
that
is
section.
10%.
Yeah, which is 10% of their pop, and they're not getting that pass through that because they lose part of that, and so because they have a TIF, so they lose part of it, and other than their referendum money. But
I think just as important, though, like I said earlier, there's 3 different governmental bodies. When you're in the unincorporated area, you're governed by the county. The county's comprehensive plan is not the same as our comprehensive plan. What we may want in our plan, we look at this future land development as being residential, let's say commercial, and they may not look at it the same way. So they'll have somebody come there to get their project approved. And sometimes they'll communicate with us, sometimes they won't. And so that's another key component. We'll have one plan commission, we'll have one BZA. We won't have the county, we won't have the town, and we won't have the other municipalities that have already encroached into Washington Township. And when you look at those, well, now you've got 5 different plan commissions and 5 different BZAs. So.
Yeah,
And
and
we've got pockets. Lakeland Farm is surrounded by Avon, but Lakeland Farm is in the county. So the
Sun
good
Chase
news
is
is
the
it's fully developed.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that Austin Lakes, right in the middle of Avon is county, that's a county subdivision. So it's hard to protect building standards. It's hard to control the growth on the school. And, you know, we need more buses, we need more teachers, we need more more classrooms, things like that. And if the other taxing entities, the county, Plainfield, and some of the people encroaching into the Washington Township boundaries are making those decisions, then they're not necessarily in the best, in our best interest, I guess. So. Shane?
Anything else on the list? I know we had.
Things that we haven't talked about yet. So why don't, go here. It's here. So Greg, you were talking about the town center and things that we could kind of consolidate underneath that. So town center.
I just say Easton Gray, and then within that development are some of the things that we're talking about. You have your town center, your arts and culture, your entertainment for adults, and events and conference center.
And we're just gonna, right?
Right.
Diversity and commercial opportunities.
We're working on that.
Yeah, that would
You know, we
be-
have Avon
I think
Landing
then you
and
put
Harvest
another
Landing.
category that says the town. I mean, it says eliminate traffic, you're never gonna
No, you're
eliminate
not gonna
traffic.
eliminate traffic. That's
But
why we kind of,
infrastructure, shared office space, incubator for new business, redevelopment. Those are the things that the town's working on.
okay, so as far as Easton Gray, is there any benefit to having a group? I know it's obviously a town project, right?
No, there definitely is, you know, input, you bet.
From all, you know, if you have somebody from each taxing entity that's kind of with you guys, you know.
I'm not sure we're there yet, but I definitely think when that time comes, that just to the civic component that Ryan mentioned, that then absolutely, this collaboration group will be a big part of that. I'm not sure, I think is the point you're trying to get to. I'm not sure we need a subcommittee at this moment.
Right.
There is a time in the future that I think that definitely will be the case, but at this time, but I don't think to your needs, I don't think we need to.
It's a little early.
It's a little early.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. But we've identified a future need for this collaboration group, correct? Okay. We talked a little bit about adult education. Is that something we feel at this time we want to dig into, to explore further?
It's a tough one.
Well, I think too, what we need to drill down, what do they mean by that? What's the definition of adult education? What are they looking for? I mean, if it's like you lost your job at wherever you're at, and now you kind of got to retrofit yourself and retool yourself to do something totally different. Is that what they're talking about? And then you can go to Ivy Tech. I mean, the town provides Ivy Tech funds for people within our community to do that. So,
See, that's something that I did not know.
Are you still doing that even though they're not here? Okay, good.
Okay.
as long as they're Avon students or
Okay.
they live in Avon.
So maybe this adult education is something that could just live on each of the taxing entities' websites, a resource for like information like that. I didn't know that existed. That's fantastic. This new information from the library, the grant that they received. Is there a way that we could just pool all the information and here's a resource page of where to go to on each of the taxing entities, including the school? I'm sure they would be happy to put a page up.
I think so. I think that would be a good idea.
Do we think that at this time addresses that
I don't
question?
think you're gonna see brick and mortar centers like we had
No.
come back. I think
No.
that's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think the fact that everyone's moving toward online is one of the reasons that we lost both of those. So I just don't think that'll ever be something that we'll see again.
But if there's a resource page that it could just
Yes,
show people,
absolutely.
here are the things that we offer here in Avon, here are the resources available. Right?
I agree.
Okay, so does someone want to kind of take that on? Just, I mean, this is, like you said, it has a very finite end. Right, we pull all the information and then we send it to Karen and Jared and say, can you guys create a little website, and does somebody wanna kind of spearhead that?
We could put it on our web service, but I'm not sure what it looks like. That's what I'm struggling
But I
with.
think somebody just needs to spearhead compiling the information.
I think that's probably us, Amanda. I think it may be us in the library, in the school.
Yeah, I think I would put the
Because-
library in that process.
Yeah, we're the ones contributing the resources to those programs.
Okay.
And so it's probably, I'll volunteer Jared over there, he'll be super happy about it.
He's
We can try to
smiling.
go on that education information out about what it is, how partner with the school and then Laurel as well to get that information in a spot on our website. And obviously share that information with you guys and ask you to put it out there as well. It seems like an education opportunity that we need to take advantage of.
Right. But
And
also
then maybe
might,
we'll find, like Greg said, those gaps. Okay, well, that's great information, but what about this? And then maybe we'll find out what those gaps are.
I would also reach out to Brandy at Hendrix College Network.
Absolutely.
Just to see what services they offer.
Well,
Okay.
and I think that's going to be changing, hopefully expanding within, hopefully, a couple of weeks, we can announce some real, working with MAID and trying to get that finalized.
Okay.
So, got some details to work out, but other than that, it should happen, and that should make that relationship, much easier to talk about.
Okay, all right, so if I put up here, I can't reach this very well, it was on a chair earlier. Town, is that fair? Ryan?
Yeah, I think
Can I
so.
volunteer for that?
Yep.
Okay, the ever-present question since I've lived here, sports facilities.
Town,
Why town? Why
because
just
we're
town?
communicating with somebody right now.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I wanna say.
All right,
Is there opportunity for the township to assist in that?
I mean, I'm not sure what to discuss what has previously been discussed with other entities.
I think that comes under the schools kind of as well. I don't know. I mean, they have some facilities and maybe we could make use of some of those facilities. I don't know.
So obviously, AJAA is the youth sports organization here in
Right.
town. Their facilities are dilapidated. We all know that. We know that they need to grow. They also have a partnership with the school corporation. So a lot of the facilities that the school has are kind of rented out, if you will, to AJAA at the present time. So again, I don't know that we want anyone to come in and take over AJAA. That's not what I'm saying here. But what can be done to support the fact that there's really, I mean, yes, there are places for our kids to play, but we don't really have what you would call a sports facility.
Does that fall under a type of park? Is it a sports
That was kind of my
park?
question. That was why I was like, is it a collaborative thing? Is it something we discuss between town and Parks and Rec? I'm not sure of the answers to those questions.
Ryan, Don?
We can name it the Town of Avon Sports Facility, and if you wanna fund it for us, Don,
Great idea.
that would be great collaboration.
And sports facilities is a real challenge, as you know, Amanda. We've tried several times over the last 5 years to bring all the sports groups together and try to have a conversation, and that seemed to.
They don't want to play in the same.
Yeah, they don't wanna play in the same team,
They've come
but I
to
think
us too.
certainly, I've had several conversations with AJAA. I've had some conversations with Don, I had some conversations with you as well, that there's probably some opportunities to collaborate there. I'm not sure where they'll go, just because it's such a challenging issue, but I think everyone recognizes the needs. I just don't know how we navigate
Right.
everyone's
Well, part of it-
pieces that they want to maintain.
Part of when you say sports facility, you're kind of boiling the ocean too.
Yes.
Yes. Do you mean recreational sports? Do you mean youth sports? Do you mean, what do you mean? And is this for travel? Is this a money-making endeavor? Is this sports performance? Is this, we want it for the school? It's a big, big thing. And it has to be, this is me speaking, I think it has to be a decision by the community to do it. A grand park doesn't generate
No.
revenue itself, and it's an investment to grow the other economic drivers. So, I mean, you know my thoughts on the
We
sport park
disagree.
and I know. We absolutely do. But it's just, it can drag a lot of
Resources
dollars
away.
and pull a lot of resources down if not done properly. And then should communities be competing with each other? Does a Plainfield and an Avon and a Brownsburg all compete with each other, and in the end they all fail
Right.
and stuff still goes to a Grand Park? So I think we just have to be very smart and deliberate and extremely strategic as to what comes in.
And Grant Park's more of a regional type thing.
Yeah.
See, if you're familiar with on the Boy Scouts, I mean, Randsburg Reservation's a council-owned camp that people from all over the country come to. And there's like, the Boy Scouts have identified those type of camps where each, councils will have smaller camps, but there's these key, what we call regional camps. And they're central, it's throughout the country in certain states. And it's the same thing on this sports thing, because those type of things are, look at Claremont, they started to do, something similar, and it, didn't even get very far off the ground and it folded up, so.
I think too, like Sean said, I mean, I believe it's reached a saturation point to be that, because I just saw something, Lebanon just announced that they're gonna do something up there with Andy Card and his group. And you've got Kokomo, you've got Noblesville. He even mentioned there's 2 more announcements coming, and then he believes they're at their saturation point. And, they're really, I look at those as Grant Park is the wheel, and these are just spokes for big tournaments. And once it starts boiling down to the quarterfinals, it all stays at Grant Park. So then the question is, what do we do with those facilities?
So I will
They
say,
have to
because
be-
I live in this world, that's what I spend every weekend doing. I am at these softball fields. Grand Park is not like, he's right. The national teams all play at Grand Park. Grand Park has regional gymnastics championships. It's where the regional soccer championships and things go. I spend my weekends in Columbus, Shelbyville, some of these smaller parks, because there are so many teams out there that don't go to Grand Park. That is a very high level facility. Now, where's Laura? Oh, Laura left. Laura and I went down to Columbus and spoke with their Parks and Rec director, who used to be the previous Parks and Rec director through Washington Township. And again, this is where the B and C teams play, not the A teams. And we asked her, are you making money? And she laughed in our face. She's like, no, I'm making money. Yes. And she showed us her budgets and her financials, and they're doing very well. It's in the concessions where they make a lot of their money. And then they're hosting adult tournaments. They're doing other things besides just hosting tournaments during the day. But therein lies the question then, does it also become a place for where Little League plays? Because you're not gonna make as much money doing that. That's just providing an amenity for your community. So back to Shane's point, this could go a million different ways. So
I
I don't
just
even.
look at that as something for our local community. If we could add 5 more fields for baseball and 3 more fields for softball, it just complements what AJA has, what the school has, and maybe fill in that gap where we're not at 100%, but would give us some flexibility. And also, I look for a facility that we can have Rib Fest at, we can have a 4th of July celebration at, or there's parking, there's not just sporting fields, but you can have those type of family events there without having to go somewhere else.
Because the other thing I believe we're missing is multi-use fields. I know, like you said, you talked to soccer. I've had a soccer come to me recently because they were losing the church that they have played at for years and years and years. I know lacrosse is constantly looking for multi-use fields, so they come to the park asking if we have fields that they can use. Rugby is something else that's getting popular. So as these sports gain momentum, it's not just baseball, softball, it's also the multi-use fields as well. So I don't even know where to begin to tackle this topic,
It's
because
a tough one.
we could talk about it for hours and hours.
Maybe put in parentheses, multi-use fields, not just sports facilities.
Well, and sports facilities can also mean indoor.
Well, it could be indoor golf, it could be indoor, whatever.
It could be indoor
Yeah.
baseball, softball, which is
Softball,
also something they do. Volleyball, they haven't even discussed that. So This is something we,
I think it's something that you can't be all things to all people.
correct,
No, I think we have to pick
It's
one,
impossible.
right?
correct.
If I could add a little insight, so I dug through every last comment that was included and sort of categorized what I saw. And youth sports was the only sports mention. So let's be blunt, they were referring to the AJA fields and our lack of quality youth sports facilities. So if we are to try to boil the ocean, let's start with boiling youth sports.
No, I agree.
Kids.
Yeah, this is a very large family community. Not everyone has children in this community, but a large population has children. This would be a 80% solution, if you will, target youth sports.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kids who aren't on the travel teams.
Correct.
These are the kids that are
Right.
staying home because they're not at that level, but they still want to participate and they should still participate.
Yep, there should be something for everyone.
And I think a strong program drives that. I mean, as much as they get to the fields to do that, but a strong program does that. You can't have one without the other. So, I mean, I think it's a chicken and egg kind of thing, but you kind of have to have them both at the same time. You look at, I mean, I hate to say Carmel Dance Club, but that is a huge machine that drives a lot of really good programs. And if you have good programs that are growing, it's easier to justify having fields and that kind of stuff. So I think facilitating that kind of stuff, I don't know that that's something, I don't know, is that the business that either one of us are in to facilitate that kind of thing?
It's a lot to put under our Parks and Rec departments, I would think. I think it would have to have some type of professional management or a separate entity managing it, I think.
I mean, we certainly can help facilitate
Right.
those things, but I think having, somebody that's their day in, day out.
But maybe some property, if we did something together, I mean, from the standpoint like Greg was talking about, some extra fields and that type of thing because that's their big hang up right now is raising the money
Right.
to do that. They don't have the resources like we do.
I think I agree that I don't think either of our governments are the entity to manage this in the future, but I think what we're doing here is the first step.
Right.
And so I think back to what we're trying to accomplish here, maybe this is a subcommittee with one from our parks, one from township parks, someone from AJA and someone from the schools to help build some alliance, some program to start talking about this conversation so we can take it off of our plates, but still have some movement going forward.
Something to think about too is then when we get to a point where they present you an opportunity, and we go in this together where we both fund it, not depend upon
Right.
one organization to fund it or one travel soccer team to fund it because they can't. And to me, that would go a long way within our community.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So we're thinking maybe this could be a subcommittee.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna put another one.
Okay.
All right, excels in dedicated leadership.
For what, please? What'd you say?
Dedicated leadership?
So I made a list of like 4 as we were talking. I think
These three go together.
Yeah, so I think this is the start of kind of some of that, where everything from transparency to collaboration to, there's a lot of stuff that kind of ties all that together. I guess my thought is we commit to, is it me that's causing this to happen? Okay, I apologize. Every time I speak, things go a little haywire.
Like
I think
the
that-
Hutton.
I don't know. I doubt that. So I think if we're committing to a regular cadence of we're meeting in a collaborative fashion, whether it's quarterly, every 4 or 6 months, something like that, I think that's good to give updates on, hey, this is what the township's doing. I mean, I think we're talking, but I think having something where the public can come is important to give updates, and to show that we're also talking and working together, not you guys are going this way, we're going that way, and that kind of thing. I think that helps. I think asking for this feedback and then doing this survey again then next year, are we making progress in what we're seeing? Have we made an impact on that? Have we tried to? And then educate, whether whether it be through marketing efforts or kind of that education, as these are the things we're working on. I think that'll help a lot. There's a lot going on that people don't know about. I mean, we probably don't even know what each other's doing all the
What I
time.
would add to that then is that financial responsibility. I think that's the thing to handle with transparency.
Sure.
I agree.
And I think the fact that we're all starting to live stream and put things out on social media and things like that, that's, at least on the town side, that's our attempt to be as transparent as possible. For those people that, you know, get off work and they have to fix dinner and they have to help the kids with homework and they can't attend our public meetings, that's a way for them to watch it after the kiddos are in bed or whatever and still know what's going on in their community.
Having said that, I always like to say, I love people when they are listening online, that the more they can come to the local meetings,
Yes.
then we can have that feedback.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
It's always better, you know, if we have people here that we can talk to and be with, or we meet you at the farmers markets or, you know, special events, because that's important rather than we say it's all handled by social, you know.
Right.
It's,
And
I mean,
maybe
it's
that's
needed, but
maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's a town hall kind of thing that's
Yeah.
every so often, and then maybe it's, hey, at Rib Fest, we're gonna have a joint booth where people could come up and ask questions or something, a bit bigger events like that.
Steve and I had,
Oh,
we were
yeah.
at Avon Heritage Festival.
That's right.
We did get a lot of
I think,
questions.
well, yeah, but I think that offers out there, hey, we're gonna have folks from the town and the township willing to answer and ask questions, and then it's hard to argue, hey, we've had this many opportunities and, you know, we've done this.
I would like to also open that to the school and library though too.
Sure.
If we're gonna be one strong community, let's.
Right.
I think when we say we,
Yeah.
that's we.
Okay. I just think it's very important that those folks be included, so.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably the four taxing entities, it's important that
Yep.
everyone is involved.
Okay, so I've lumped these together in kind of a group, and then this one as well. And then the third, I went ahead and put secure the borders. Excels with diversity and commercial opportunities. And then I think this kind of redevelopment opportunities, infrastructure, and new business, those four go together. Do we agree?
And the infrastructure, of course, we address as new development comes all the time. And I think that's part of our streets too, infrastructure, our streets, our bridges, things like that.
Well, I think too, diversity in commercial opportunities is we're not looking to put 1,000,000 square foot commercial buildings on every piece of land. Obviously, in 100 South, that makes sense to put it there because right across the street is where it is. But as we move up to Avon Landing and other Mormon church property, you know, we've got a 50,000 square foot building, we've got 200 and some thousand square foot building, and we've put a limit on what we want, but then within that, we're trying to get is tech, the thing to chase is
medical
office,
Healthcare.
medical, the thing to chase, you know, those are things we gotta look at, will be out there beyond our time here, you know, so I think we are looking at diversity. We're looking at diversity from a housing perspective as well, trying to find townhomes versus and single family homes. So
Okay, so I'm putting town for all these, like,
how come we're getting them all?
Yeah.
We use a factor with.
Oh.
I see where you're going with this, Alan.
That was not
It's
my
just a-
intention when this meeting's turned whatsoever.
But it doesn't mean that there can't be conversations among
Yeah.
all of the leadership on what type of comprehensive plan maybe that we,
Yes.
you know, when we are looking at diversity for things, like
do you
feedback
think it
is
needs a
good.
subcommittee, is my question. Anybody? I can answer.
I mean, we have a lot of things that say town, and I thought we were here to collaborate.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that's somewhat addressed now when each entity has liaisons that go to the town meeting, the township. I think that helps from a communication standpoint, which I don't know that we had before. So that people can know this is what's going on without tuning into the webcast or whatever.
Well, I think we have three, but then the fourth will be the town center, right, when that,
That one we
is that,
definitely.
is that a point?
Going,
And I
Well, I
think
think,
four
yeah.
subcommittees, we said
The timing's
between
right.
3 to 5, I think that's as much as we should and could handle.
Okay.
Do we agree with that?
Yeah, the only other thing I had was around the adult education piece, but that's kind of like the youth sports that we may not be the ones doing it, but we might help facilitate
Right.
something like that.
Well, but I think Jared was gonna work on just kind of compiling all of that, and we're all part of that. But
Yeah, and I'm meaning more if we need resources and that kind of stuff. If for some reason, for whatever reason, something wants to come and they need to the Avon community, and what do we do from a resource standpoint? It may not be bricks and mortar anymore, but I think facilitating, it just helps. But yeah, that's,
I think one thing that we haven't talked about when we talked about traffic was, excels in transportation. We rated pretty low on that. I think we all know that, we don't have any public transportation here. And that causes problems for qualified workers getting here to fill positions that we have. And, as we go into our economic development growth, we're gonna have more positions that need to be filled. And so I think that's something that would be a good breakout type thing to talk about, transportation. And how,
Alternatives such as a bus service coming out to
Something.
Avon, Danville, just coming all the way out here.
Mhm.
Get Indigo to make that. Shane and I remember back in our leadership class, we tried that.
Yeah.
How many years ago? Over 10 years ago?
9, yeah.
well, I kind of viewed these subcommittees a little as the leadership.
Yes.
What did we call those breakouts?
Capstone.
Our capstone
Capstone
projects.
projects.
Yeah, so it's our little mini capstone projects with all
Well,
our
I
spare
think
time.
in your transportation, I would probably put in there not only number 4, but Henderson County Economic Development Partnership. I'd put John Taylor in there, our economic development guy, because those are the people that are bringing this new growth to us.
Mhm.
And so even the Ronald Reagan corridor, maybe a bus line could just go from 36 or West Washington along the corridor.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a couple miles further than it is today.
There's also a senior center too that provides link.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's something that the two of us can help probably fund, more. It would probably help with that. And it can be geared more for people that can't drive, okay? Where, they have jobs, but they just can't drive. I mean, I know I've had folks, approach me about that and have an interest in that. And so they do provide that, but funding is obviously a big thing. So, because they're limited on how many vans they can have and drivers and everything else because of funds. So it's something that we, as a group, we could look at too.
Plainfield got with Indigo and they have their line. They pick up people at the airport and then bring them out to their warehouses there at Bradford Road, I think is where they drop them off there by the Kohl's outlet and the UPS and those things like that. So, we have them that close. Maybe we just need to get them further up here to our retail district and along Ronald Reagan where our
Isn't there a
economic
deal,
growth is
Ryan,
going to be.
that's more tax-based too? Because I know when that was put through that the Guilford Township Board had to vote in a positive manner for it. And it was a tax that they were levying on, the areas and everything, so.
On the employers, I believe, wasn't it, the businesses?
It's
Yeah, they
Oh, it was.
created an economic development
Yeah.
district, and I know John and I have had some conversations about it, so they create a district, and it is those particular businesses within that area are basically assessed a tax rate, and then they're actually paying to cover the cost of those services, but yeah, the township may have had to be a participatory
Yeah.
party to that
Yeah, they had
agreement,
they had
whatever it was.
the Guilford Township Board had to approve it. I know.
Like we have Harlem Bakeries. Harlem Bakeries always coming to us and, they can't staff all of their openings and they pay well. So I know they struggle.
Just saw on the Costco sign, they covered up their $16 an hour, they're up to $17.
Wow, see?
Oh, really?
There you go.
19 by the time they open. I mean, that's how crazy it is.
Schools losing employees to them too.
Everybody's losing employees, so.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. I'm gonna put these 4 up here, these capstone projects, if you will. And if everybody comes up, how many do you think we should get the vote for? 3 apiece? Just put like a little tally? Okay, so vote for, and this includes everyone saying out there, vote for 3 of these. What do you think when you think of Avon in this community? What do you think of? And then for those of us up here, or if any of you would like to be on a committee, have at it. Put your name under which committee you'd like to be on.
I think it should be the council and the board. Ryan and I will end up probably working with all of them, so. Yeah,
Thought you were gonna take all of them.
Don, are you trying to take over this meeting?
no,
Well, but we've already identified there are people under, like AJAA needs to be up here.
Right.
We've identified several people under public transportation that we need to reach out to and ask if they would like to collaborate.
Right.
Okay, does that work?
Were you a school teacher before?
Nope.
Well, Amanda, not because I knew that you were gonna do this exercise, but I already have my 3 highlighted.
See? Perfect.
Friendly, safe, and growing.
Okay, we'll get up here and mark
We
it.
should taint
We gave you a
us.
marker.
Yeah, there's to do with that.
Would you just pick the biggest font?
After you see Amanda, the new one probably. So I didn't.
You also pick your
Okay,
favorite color.
Don't be
green,
shy.
yellow, or what?
Up up there.
Brian, do you want me to put yours up there?
Nope.
Are we doing check marks? Here, I'm gonna turn these into tallies. Don't be mad at me, I'm gonna turn them into tallies.
Which one I wanna be on?
Yeah, what you gonna be on?
Only
Be
one,
shy.
right?
Come on, Karen.
Well, we have another, those are the people that are gonna run for our office next month.
You want me to switch your
We're marking things that
I know,
we
right?
described.
I just saw a lot of years working on
put
it.
it in Stephen. board.
They got all the sleep.
Yeah. Steve was.
Yeah.
Brett, what do you make?
Yes, you've been down that road.
These 2 threes, right?
I've just spent so many years
Yes.
working on it.
Correct.
I can't have the ball.
Brett, is that you in that picture?
It does, it looks like it, doesn't it? Right. It looks like it, doesn't it?
I swear that, it looks like what you're wearing today too. Look at your outfit. I did that same double thing, I'll be honest with you. when I went.
All redheads.
Did you-
Not the same, right, Robert?
That's great. Don't even say that.
Did you superimpose that?
Nobody said that. Geez, a little sensitive.
Yeah. I wouldn't confuse you.
Okay, who hasn't voted? 10? Bring it over.
Steve only went to sign
Just
the
one holler
community because he
for me.
couldn't reach anyone.
You can't see them. You didn't have your eyes checked?
No, the green's really hard to read.
I'm sorry. It's schools friendly, safe, growing, community, diverse, parks, family, convenient, opportunity, affordable, and accessible.
I will go, but I'm gonna go on behalf of the public. So I'm gonna put the 3 that they marked down as the most important.
Okay.
I feel like that's the most appropriate thing to do, is make sure that they're.
So does he get a super vote?
Well,
No.
that's what I used to write those.
Yes, all of those are down there, but I wanna make sure that their top 3 have a vote in this structure.
You see, Steve?
Which the 3 are friendly, safe, and growing.
You can put yours down?
I don't know about safe, I hear stories.
Look what happened to Robert.
Yeah.
In his own garage. Yeah, that's self-inflicted though. Does that count?
It's your Halloween costume, your Aquaman.
I believe I'm missing a few.
This is what we.
Do the very top
Want
one.
to do it? Can you reach that?
Very top, okay.
I just want to see you reach.
You
did.
Convenient to downtown, She said three.
Before they come back.
Can't mark them all, John.
Okay. Now, Sean, you have to put safe. You have to do it. I can't read it.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if he puts safe.
That's right. Get the camera to zoom in on that one.
Brett, will you put me under sports?
That way no one will recognize it.
You want the chair?
John, what committee do you want to
We're
chair?
just supposed to put one under.
While you're at it, Britt, just put me under number two there.
Local Brenda.
I forgot to do that part, sorry.
Okay.
And while you're there, no.
You're not? You can sign mine though. You can sign
The number, I feel like it's just so slow down. Just made me feel better.
Yeah. I'm glad the chief thinks everything's safe too.
Did you vote yet, Steve?
Yep.
Don's just taking his sweet time.
We're allowed to pick safety. and you pick safe.
No.
I don't Sean, you're not allowed to pick safety either.
Sean did.
He picked it anyway?
He did.
I don't know.
What else you want to do? You don't know what's going on.
Tell her what the other one is.
It's the winter, yeah. You're gonna miss them.
Yeah, I know. Leftover trick candy.
Oh. I was right here, there's no sense in staying on that.
So is that on the job?
So did you,
Family.
so by just doing that, did you vote yourself out of it?
Karen, did you come up?
I know, I might have. I can go if you want me to.
So John,
It just makes more sense though, considering I have that.
can I go vote?
Yeah.
You know, but volunteer for the committee? No?
No, I know, nobody wants transportation, I feel bad.
You know what? You're the best person suited for that, so.
We can put Steve, we'll put all three Steves on there, that's what.
Well, you know what? I think John,
Steve and Steve show.
Yeah.
John, can we put you, not you, John, but John Taylor, can we put you under public transportation because of economic development?
Sorry, put me in the public.
Yeah,
What do you want me like?
I'm gonna put you under
You
public
like traffic,
transportation.
come on.
We're gonna put you in affordable.
I like the free traffic.
Huh?
There you go, see?
You're working on 4, you're crazy.
Well, we're on the.
While I'm
already on
recruiting people, Steve,
the- Excuse me.
do you wanna be under, transportation?
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, can I?
No sarcasm there. Good, Steve, we'll have a good time.
Does anybody wanna be on sports facilities or Greg? Amanda, do you wanna be under sports facilities?
She's already there.
I put
Yeah, she's
myself
got
under
it.
there. So
There and Aaron.
Steve and I have switched. I switched from borders
So
to
you have a meeting
facilities.
tomorrow, Steve.
So I have a meeting tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
he's coming to the
Okay.
meeting tomorrow.
Yeah,
Afternoon.
Yeah.
okay. Well, it
You want me on
looks,
sports facilities?
do you want me to tally them, total them?
Right, I can do what I want.
No, total them. I can't reach.
Looks like schools, safe
Schools.
and family win.
I like that.
Yep.
I am.
Help her out there, Bill.
It's a rough crowd.
Help her out.
You don't have to use the invisible one.
He knows we don't have
I got
kind
you,
up
girl.
there. Yeah, no.
Got what's the bruise on your back, huh?
Yeah.
So I think, like Jared and Karen, schools, safe, family, let's work together to come up with, not like a tagline, but you know what I mean, like a Avon, Washington Township, safe, family-friendly, we'll come up with something that we can all kind of use as part of the hashtag One Strong Community.
The question I would have is, why put more words into it? Unless it's gonna be something like a branding separation. So if we're gonna focus on school, safe, and family, it almost feels like those should be 3 maybe educational items that we dive into deeper versus just those 3 words in addition to 3 other words. Just asking for clarification of what exactly everybody's wanting from that.
I was looking at it more of a, when you think about Avon, just kind of a marketing, branding type thing. Kind of, we didn't go through the whole process, but getting down to like a brand essence and a tagline, just kind of wanted to, what do people think of when they think of Avon, right? If somebody had never been to Avon before, Washington Township, and they knew nothing about us, and they thinking about moving somewhere in the Midwest, and we have that up there, what do they think? Hey, might check them out. So it's something that we all kind of live by in this group, right? This is what we stand
Safe
for.
community,
This is
family,
what's
yeah.
important to the public, and it's what's important to us as we go through these breakout sessions, keeping these things top of mind.
So I would just offer, so the township knows, the town, when we went through our branding is actually, Avon is a safe, vibrant community for active families and thriving businesses, which covers about
Pretty close.
95% of that already, so.
Mhm.
Check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Jared. Good, we're done.
It doesn't fit on the business.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, if
Just
you
gotta
want
put
to change it,
schools
instead of
in
saying
there
it's
somewhere.
Avon, you could say the greater Avon community,
Awesome. I think that's great.
instead of reinventing the wheel, but.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Schools are important though, to keep that in somehow in the tag.
Well, you go back, and when you're an old codger like me, that's been around before a lot of development went on, that was the center of everything was the schools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And just because of all the growth, it's not about the only thing going on in Avon anymore, but it's still extremely important. So,
Absolutely.
it's,
You talk to most of the people that move out here, that's what they move out here for, is
Well,
Avon
like,
schools.
see, I would argue that's part of being a thriving family, right? For your family to be thriving, you demand schools.
Yeah,
sure.
And so
Top-notch schools.
maybe even if we find a way to do subcategories to what we're doing, to explain ourselves, and that becomes part of our branding, just.
And you want your
explain
family
that
to be
as well.
safe.
Yeah, exactly. Safe in school, safe when they're around, so.
Okay.
Well, I think we just need to figure out, where these committees go from here. Obviously, I don't think this group needs to be once a month. I think that's too much. So I think from here, we take the time to kind of get with our individual groups and figure out what that looks like and how we move forward with that. And then, I don't know, does this group want to meet 3 months?
I think quarterly is plenty.
I think so too.
So maybe you get a volunteer out of each one of those groups that serve as the chairman, and they can set up a meeting.
Well, the secure borders, we have a meeting
Yeah, we're
tomorrow.
gonna be-
You guys are already set.
Yep. So we switched, Amanda, you won't be on that, Steve, you'll be on that now, okay?
Yep. And I'm planning on being there tomorrow.
Okay, great.
I'll
Amanda, because you live it every weekend, you can be our chair for sports facilities.
Thank you so much, Greg. Really excited about that.
She feels loved.
He is very decisive.
Okay, so the Leadership Collaborative Community.
What was that? Like, is that
You want to be our chairperson?
yeah, that'd be fine.
And I think Don and Ryan said you guys are gonna be on all of them? Are you
We'll
guys
work
crazy?
with all of them, yes.
Okay, but just include them in your communication.
Yeah, I think facilitators.
Yes, please.
To help and be there, participate, and help you guys work through issues.
Yeah, just let us know when your meetings are. So that,
Okay.
we can be.
Okay, great. And then some on public transportation, we've got Steve Eisenbarth, Steve Moore, and John Taylor. So who wants to lead that group?
I say Steve Moore, he does a great job.
I was gonna say I'm out.
I'd say Steve Eisenbarth.
I'll do it, I'll do it, but I just like to throw it at
I say
someone
either
else.
one of them.
I notice I guess a problem with that one. We don't have a representative from the township in that group.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a problem when we only have 3 board members.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna be working with the group, so if you guys are okay with
Oh,
that.
Brett's raising her hand.
Brett,
Oh,
you raising
Brett,
your
yeah,
hand?
Yes.
Brett, there we go.
Okay.
Love it.
With enthusiasm.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks for, she was like.
And Dawn, you're the chairman of our, order committee, right?
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
You like
Sports,
traffic, don't you?
I'm just putting asterisks next to him and, Steve Moore. Okay.
And then this group will get back together sometime into the first of the year then.
Yeah, let's say January sometime.
We maybe need to stay away from Mondays. We didn't plan that very well,
Yeah.
so that we can include the library and the schools.
Okay. Council meets on Thursdays.
Okay.
So Mondays and Thursdays probably not a
The-
good day.
Township will be meeting the first Tuesday after the first Monday by law, by state statute, so that's the only one time that they have a weird meeting date, but on that. So,
So then we're back to that Friday night that you didn't want to do.
Or rather, Friday night.
I
no,
know.
we're not doing Friday night.
You know, I know the school
I'm
board
all
meets.
for trying to figure this out right now. Would it be advantageous, since we do want to make sure that we have the library and the school involved?
Yep.
I can send out maybe like a quick multi-date selection option and I'll send it to everybody, to the schools, to the library, and let everybody choose from maybe 10 different dates.
That'd be
In
great.
January.
And then whatever has the
Yep.
biggest number, and we just say, I'll send that out tomorrow, and we put a time cap of by this Thursday, that way I can send out the date by Friday.
Okay, great.
It works.
Thank
I
you.
just don't want them to feel,
Yeah, definitely, we
great.
need, I don't know about you guys, but I've got some feedback from them, they really, they would like to be involved.
And they meet on
They absolutely
Mondays.
should.
Yeah, that works.
Especially since schools are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we want to talk about before we wrap this up?
I have a question, on anything, on any project, topic that you have, there's like a project timeline to start to finish. What is our project timeline here? I don't want to be rude, but are we just showing up to show up, or what are we trying to, what's the end result? What's our objective?
I think we went into this with the idea to work together. Us being 2 government entities, overseeing essentially the same area, to better collaborate, to better maybe spend our tax dollars more efficiently. I think that's the end game, but there's not a finite end there, and I think that's where you're trying to get at.
I'm not sure, well,
You look for metrics, yeah, you wanna,
well, we could keep doing this for the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years,
Should you maybe develop milestones?
that's. So when does transportation become fun?
Well, and I get, trust me, I get the metrics thing and I get not meet just to meet to say you're doing it, but I think some of them are, when you look at the leadership collaboration kind of thing, I think that's sending appropriate message to the community. I think the sports facilities, the securing the borders piece, I think that's an easy one. Hey, if these things are annexed in there, that's a pretty straightforward one, but the sports facilities and the public transportation may not have something until something comes along and they then work together. I
Less
think it's-
congestion. We can
Yeah.
measure it.
Right, yeah, and public transportation, you have one bus route, two bus routes. And that may be feedback from the business community too. Hey, we now are able to get more employees because of whatever. I mean, I think that's part of what each of those committees needs to define. What is the purpose? What are we gonna shoot for? What is our goal?
I think each committee is different. I think the
Right.
timeline is different. Some of them might be years. I think leadership collaborative, that's kind of ongoing. And as long as this committee, I know that this was beneficial to me this evening. I heard several things that I didn't know. And I think Robert's right. We're all serving the same constituents that voted for us. And I think it's our duty just to work together and be collaborative. And if that means meeting once a quarter, I don't think that's too much to ask. I don't think so anyway. If it becomes too much, we can meet twice a year. We need to decide what that looks like, but definitely these 4 items are 4 very different items. And then we're gonna throw the town center on. That's an enormous project, right? And that's years, that will take years.
Ryan's
So-
told me the annexation won't be done overnight, it's gonna
Oh,
take.
it's a long drawn out process
Yeah.
and the government, the way that the state law set up really ties your hands.
it's
I mean,
gonna-
the quickest you can annex something if that's non-voluntary or non-contiguous
It's not
is,
super voluntary.
right, is about, the quickest would be 9 months for one neighborhood.
Okay.
More realistically, it's
More-
a year and a half.
More,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
more realistic,
18
it's
months.
18
And that's still
months.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
We're,
But I'm with you,
we're
Greg.
looking at see
So
just
first
a
quarter
small
2023
little section.
should be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we
I'm-
do them all at the same time.
I love check marks and I love knowing that something
That's a
is
goal.
complete and
Your
you've
goal.
moved towards a goal. But I don't know that this group is necessarily that 100%.
Well, we also talked at the first meeting, remember, about things that where we maybe duplicate and how can we make better use out of some of the tax dollars that are incoming. And, you guys have that maintenance facility out there and, that you use. And we talked about, we outsource our police car maintenance and things like that. And so, Aaron, you weren't here specifically, but we talked about, they might already have the personnel necessary without even hiring someone new that could do our oil changes and things like that. So, I mean, it was purchased with tax dollars and it kind of makes sense to make best use of those tax dollars. So I think even just meeting and not necessarily just speaking about, our breakout type
Absolutely.
group things, it's good to just have conversation about efficiency within the
Right.
government and
Absolutely.
of all the bodies.
Got a question back there. A comment.
I just had a couple of general comments, if I could
Sure,
put
please.
them in, just on what's been discussed. The first thing is kind of on the Easton Gray project, which tomorrow night they're having the neighborhood meeting, the neighborhood information meeting on that. But the other thing with that, on the ones I've been involved with in the past, having a government center as part of those adds a lot of credibility to those type of developments. And I think currently the current town hall is probably better suited to become some sort of an event center with its new overlooking the lake and things like that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of possibility with that property, even with some of the front property and some things for that, and do that there. The other thing is with annexation, granted, I know the important thing is to block the encroachment from the other municipalities. But the advantage the other municipalities have is that they offer services that Avon doesn't. They offer water, sewer, other things like that. Creating just a wall creates more of the donut holes that's already a problem in Avon. You've got all these donut hole areas. The thing that Avon can offer these people is value in their land. And the way to value that is to be able to rezone it much of the southwest area, they can't really do that in that annexation. And the land that Danville's annexing, that Brownsburg's annexing, they're doing all super voluntary annexations for development right now. And that's the value they're adding to that, plus being able to offer water and sewer and things like that.
Right, we're definitely at a disadvantage because of being an infant when it comes to the age of the town. And, you know, the infrastructure was already set up, and so we don't own any utilities. And that's how the warehouses that come up to the south side of 100 South have all been annexed into Plainfield, because they're like, well, you want utilities, you need to annex. And so, you know, that's a lot of lost tax revenue because we don't have utilities. So, you know, maybe we need to work closer with Central Conservancy and things like that, you know, just to make sure they're on board and that they're there and willing to provide utilities when we need them.
The other comment question I get from a lot of people deals with parks and recreation, and they want to know they want to know why Washington Township continues to expand their parks and recreation at a pretty quick pace. They acquire the land, seem to develop it, whereas the town, they wonder why they just keep acquiring land, but they're not developing any of it. 4 park sites they're sitting on now.
I would say that part of that is we're investing in the infrastructure and our roads and things like that. And so it comes down to a budgetary item.
Well, you look too, I mean, really, the township has 4 things that they're in control of, you know, financial assistance, fire, parks, and cemeteries. So that's, you know, you kind of know what's your box is made of. Ours is made up of parks and police and roads and economic development, and we've got to keep money going here. You know, we get grants, Ryan, and those people, the police, they do a great job getting grant money. And like I've said forever, if it wasn't for TIF and food and beverage, we probably wouldn't be Avon. So, but I think we also need to look at, and people don't like it when I say this, but we need to leverage our resources, not leverage ourselves to put us into financial difficulty, but leverage it where, and we've done a little bit where we buy parkland and we give them a down payment and then we stretch the balance out over 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, things like that. Or go in and find a bond that we know that maybe we can consolidate some existing debt and re-leverage it or rebond it so we can use those extra dollars for other things. So.
Well, and I think, you know, maybe the public doesn't know, but for every building permit, we get the park recreation impact fee. And so that can only be used to purchase new parkland. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the truth. But that doesn't, we're not allowed to use that to develop it.
Yeah.
We can only use it to purchase. And so then we're left with, okay, well, we have to buy some parkland because we have this in our coffers and that's what it's for. But yet we've got to figure out a way to raise funds or get funds or put funds off to the side. And to do that, we have to scale back on something else. And that's the situation that we get into.
But on a positive side, we're having that land earmarked now where it's not being used for housing development. You know, it's being used for recreational. So that's a huge positive, you know, and
we're buying it now when it's cheaper because land prices just continue to go up. So at least we've got the land purchased, but it's going to take us a while to be able to develop it. We'd love to see them all developed. I mean, I think if we had a wish list, it would definitely be to develop them.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts, any other feedback from folks?
Julie wants to watch the Saints game. Julie's a Saints fan. She kicked off at 8:20, so she's.
Jared?
She wants to do a bond, a really big bond.
Jared?
Yeah.
For the park.
Something I would encourage the 4 small capstone groups to do, maybe before we meet next time, is hold a public chat. Because one of the themes that I heard while you were talking was clarification. These are very broad. What do they mean? What exactly are they talking about? And before you jump both feet into this pool of sports facilities or leadership collaboration or securing the borders or public transportation, it might be advantageous just to reach out to the community and say, we really want to know more in depth about this specifically. We would love for you to come to town hall or to the government center, wherever it might be, but just have that open dialogue, because that in itself might assist those 4 teams to figure out, okay, what is our mission statement? We think we know what our mission statement is, but again, hearing from the community, this is what we meant by filling out X, Y, and Z. It's really gonna give you a clear-cut answer, and that's gonna give you a better idea of the focus and the target that you have to do. So not you have to do it, just an encouragement of something you might be able to do with the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, have you received any feedback during this meeting? Have you been monitoring? Is there anything worth sharing?
No.
Is there anything
I mean,
you're
there's
gonna tell us in
conversation
private?
going, and the entire conversation, it's public. But it's nothing major. A few statements just about, there was a question about mom and pop brick and mortar shops. How might the commercial space be regulated in a way that large chains won't root? So that's a question that came through. Comment about wanting to become more integral into the town, but can't because they're outside of the town. Another comment talking about it's a great community to embrace ourselves more around youth sports. So again, going back to the sports and or activities for our children. Not only has COVID disconnected them more, but our kids just don't have any wholesome, fun, safe outlets. Sports is a wonderful option. Consider the library board to be included, which I think that's already been
Very
spoken. But that's about it. Everybody else, a few comments just thanking you. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for being here.
Great.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, I guess we'll come up with when you put out the doodle survey to figure out when we're gonna meet in January, but I'll let you adjourn since it's on your turf.
Well, thanks, everybody, for their time tonight, and we will adjourn.
Great.
Thank you.